Cornwall's wild cliffs and ancient halls hide more than history. From haunted castles to shadowed caves, these are 11 places so eerie that few dare to face them alone after dark. St Austell Brewery. In the heart of St Austell stands a brewery that has supplied Cornwall with ale for more than a century and a half. By day, it is a proud landmark, the air rich with the smell of malt and the sound of barrels rolling across stone floors. Yet when the crowds disperse and silence settles, in a different story takes hold. Workers tell of heavy footsteps echoing on the staircases long after the lights are out. They rise and fall with steady rhythm, as though someone is still making his rounds, yet the stairways remain empty. The building itself carries the memory of its founder, Walter Hicks, who began brewing here in 1851. He was a man of determination, known for pacing the floors with a cigar in hand as he oversaw every part of his growing empire. It is that cigar which seems to give him away. For along with the phantom footsteps drifts a dense scent of tobacco smoke curling invisibly through the corridors. No one has lit a cigar here for decades, yet the aroma is unmistakable, sharp enough that some staff have coughed as if caught in its cloud. One brewer recalled finishing late one night. As he descended the stair, the smoke closed in around him, and through the haze, he glimpsed the outline of a man pausing midway, arms folded, surveying his domain. In an instant, the shape dissolved, leaving only silence and the bitter tang of smoke in the air. He refused ever after to take that staircase alone. Whether it is pride that keeps Walter Hicks tethered to his creation, or simply weary minds weaving ghosts from shadows and stone, no one can say. But in St Austell Brewery, footsteps still echo, and the invisible trace of smoke drifts through the night, a reminder that some founders never truly leave. The Finnigook Inn. On a lonely stretch of road near Craft Hole stands the Finnigook Inn, a coastal tavern whose walls have absorbed centuries of sea salt air and whispered rumors. By daylight, it is a welcoming place of food and laughter. Yet, as night falls and the tide turns, its reputation as one of Cornwall's most unsettling inns comes alive. The name itself recalls a smuggler from long ago, a shadowy figure said to have haunted these very cliffs. The coastline around here was once thick with secret landings, contraband carried ashore under cover of darkness, and men who would sooner kill than be betrayed. Locals say that the inn, perched so close to the cliff road, became their meeting place. To this day, staff and guests alike speak of figures glimpsed in the corner of the eye, fleeting shapes that vanish when approached. One visitor described climbing the stairs after midnight, only to hear a burst of muffled laughter echoing down the corridor. Another swore he heard heavy boots dragging across the floor above him, though the rooms were locked and no one else was staying the night. The atmosphere shifts suddenly here. Dogs have been known to cower at empty doorways while lamps flicker and shadows stretch unnaturally long across the walls. The cliff road outside is perhaps more unnerving still. Travelers speak of being followed by footsteps that never draw near, or of voices carried on the wind, sharp guttural calls like men signaling across the night. Some say it is only the sound of the sea through the rocks. Others believe it is the old smuggling crews still patrolling their territory, guarding the contraband that long ago sank into the sand. Whether legend or memory, the Finnigook Inn carries the weight of its past. It remains a place where guests lower their voices after dark, and where few are comfortable wandering alone through its corridors once the laughter fades and the lights go out. Treise Manor House, just outside Newquay, stands Trerise Manor, a grand Elizabethan house with gabled stone staircases and long galleries that seem made for stories. In daylight, it feels serene, its gardens carefully kept, its chambers restored to splendor. But when dusk settles, Trerice takes on another character, for its history has never truly left. The Arundel family once owned this house, and with their memory lingers a figure known in whispers as the Wicked Lord. His shadow is said to haunt the north wing, where the air feels colder than the rest of the house. Visitors have spoken of a heavy presence on the gallery, a tall, dark form that lingers just long enough to be seen, then slides away into nothing. Some describe him as wearing an old-fashioned headdress, flat and square, as though stepped straight out of a portrait. But he is not alone. A spectral woman is said to drift along the circular stone staircase, her gown brushing the steps as though she still climbed to her chamber. Another apparition, pale and weary, has been seen upon a four-poster bed in the north chamber. At times, the sweet scent of lily of the valley fills the court chamber, overwhelming in its strength, though no flowers grow there. The fragrance seems to cling for moments, then vanish into the silence of the room. One late visitor to the gallery spoke of feeling suddenly watched. The corridor grew darker shadows, lengthening around him, and he caught the outline of a figure leaning at the end. The man wore no features, only a black shape fixed in place. The witness turned away for only a second, and when he looked back, the gallery was empty. He left quickly, his heart racing, and would not enter that wing again. Treise Manor is celebrated for its architecture, but behind its beauty lies something less comforting. Whether the spirits of the Arundel clan truly remain, or whether the house itself has soaked up the griefs of centuries, no one can be sure. What is certain is that the gallery and stairs of Trerice have drawn too many accounts to be ignored. Those who wander its north wing after nightfall often return with the same story, that the Wicked Lord is still walking and that the house has eyes that never close. Cotehele House. High above the River Tamar stands Cotehele House, one of Cornwall's most treasured Tudor mansions. By daylight, it is admired for its tapestries, armor, and ancient oak beams. Yet once the visitors leave, the silence of its stone halls is far from empty. For centuries, there have been whispers of two restless figures. The first is a lady in an old-fashioned gown, seen gliding close to the arched entrance. She appears suddenly, often in the half-light, before slipping away into shadow. The second is a dark-haired girl, no older than her teens, racing down the grand staircase with her arms raised as if in fright. More than one witness has followed the sound of her steps, only to find the hall deserted. Strange sensations cling to this house. Music has been reported echoing faintly through rooms where no instrument is played. Even more curious is the lingering scent of perfume, soft but unmistakable, drifting through the corridors and stairwells. The fragrance arrives with no warning, as though a presence passes by, unseen, then fades as suddenly as it came. One late caretaker recalled hearing laughter spill across the gallery. As he turned, expecting to scold intruders, he instead saw a faint shimmer of fabric sweeping down the staircase. It vanished halfway, but the perfume of violets lingered in the air. He locked the doors behind him that night, though he knew he was not alone. Cotehele is a house where history feels alive in every stone. Whether these are memories that replay themselves or spirits bound to the place, the effect is the same. The scent of flowers where none are present, the flicker of movement where no one walks, and the echo of music in an empty hall all speak of a home that refuses to fall silent. Even in stillness, Cotehele breathes with the past. The Crow's Nest Inn. Perched in the village of Trerice, near Liskeard, the Crow's Nest Inn is a centuries-old public house that wears its history proudly. But behind the warmth of its hearth lies one of the richest collections of ghost stories in Cornwall. At least 4 distinct spirits are said to call this inn their home. One is a sorrowful young woman, broken-hearted when her lover never returned from the mine. Another is an old woman fond of her drink, who is believed to slip back for a final tipple long after last orders. A third is thought to be Edward Charles Murch, a landlord from the early 1900s. Locals knew him simply as Eddie, and his figure has been glimpsed crossing the bar before fading into the night. Others speak of a boy who drifts silently through the dining room, his outline faint, his presence fleeting. The activity here is not only apparitions. Glasses have been hurled from shelves without breaking a single other vessel. A pint of beer was once flung from the bar on its own accord, landing at the feet of the new landlady on her second day. Footsteps climb the spiral staircase when no one is there, and a column of smoke, made not of vapor but tiny grains of dust and sand, has been seen swirling beneath a lamp at the entrance to the bar. Perhaps strangest of all, the inn's clock is said to run 10 minutes fast, no matter how often it is adjusted. One patron remembered sitting quietly by the fire when the air turned icy and the unmistakable sound of boots crossed the floor behind him. Turning quickly, he saw only the shadow of a man slipping into the wall where once a door had been. The shadow vanished, leaving the room silent once more. The Crow's Nest Inn is a place of welcome by day, but at night its stories whisper louder. With so many spirits said to wander its rooms, few linger here alone after closing time. It is as though the pub itself refuses to empty, holding fast to its ghosts as tightly as its memories. Egloshayle Church. In the quiet village of Wadebridge stands St Petrox, the parish church of Egloshayle. Its stone tower rises above the trees, a picture of calm and devotion. Yet in its churchyard, among the tilted gravestones and ancient yews, there lingers one of Cornwall's strangest and most unnerving tales. For generations, locals have spoken of a phantom rabbit, pure white, small, and fast as a streak of light. It darts between the graves, always in the half-light, never in the bright of day. Those who chase it tell the same story. The animal sprints ahead, rounds a corner, and then impossibly vanishes into the wall of the church itself, leaving no trace behind. Legend ties this haunting to a man who once set out to hunt the rabbit. Armed with his gun, he pursued the creature through the yard. But in some cruel twist of fate, his weapon misfired. The blast struck him dead on the spot. Since then, it is said, his restless spirit too has wandered the ground, a figure in the gloom who appears only at the edge of vision. Visitors have reported unnerving sensations here at dusk, the crunch of unseen footsteps following them across the gravel, the brush of something cold against their sleeve, the echo of a gunshot carried faintly on the evening air. Some have sworn they saw the rabbit itself, its bright form darting into stone and leaving only silence. The story may sound whimsical at first, but those who stand alone among the graves after dark speak otherwise. In the stillness of Egloshayle, the rabbit's path is more than a curiosity, it is a warning. To follow too closely, or to linger too long in pursuit, is to risk meeting the same fate as the hunter who never returned. Molesworth Arms Hotel. In the bustling heart of Wadebridge stands the Molesworth Arms Hotel, a coaching inn whose walls have welcomed travelers for centuries. By day, it hums with life, but when the final hour of the year approaches, the atmosphere changes, for this inn is home to one of Cornwall's most chilling legends. Every New Year's Eve, as the clock edges toward midnight, witnesses say the sound of hooves begins to echo across the courtyard. Out of the shadows rolls a phantom coach drawn by 4 black horses, their breathless gallop silent upon the stones. At the reins sits a coachman, tall, commanding, and without a head. The spectral carriage thunders through the archway, passes directly into the inn, and vanishes down the hallway as if the walls themselves open to receive it. Guests and staff alike have spoken of this vision. Some hear only the rattle of wheels and the crack of a whip in the dead of night, while others have seen the coach with their own eyes, its lamps glowing faintly as it disappears into nothing. The courtyard grows colder at that moment, and silence follows, as though the year itself hesitates before turning. Nor is this the only strange occurrence within the hotel. A guest once complained that the kettle in his room began to boil furiously, though it had never been switched on. Another woke to find their television set humming with static, though it was still unplugged. These small disturbances, coupled with the legend of the headless coachman, have given the Molesworth Arms a reputation that lingers long after the festivities are done. Whether this phantom is a lost soul tied to the dangers of the coaching trade or a memory replayed with each passing year, no one knows. But when the final night of December arrives, few at the Molesworth Arms are willing to face the stroke of midnight alone. Manor House Inn. In the quiet village of Rilla Mill sits the Manor House Inn, a traditional country tavern where the fire glows warmly and the welcome is genuine. Yet when the night deepens and the chatter fades, this inn reveals a darker side, one that makes even seasoned locals uneasy. Many have spoken of footsteps echoing from the upstairs rooms when no guest is staying there. The sound is clear, slow measured, as though someone is pacing an empty bedroom. Staff who have gone to investigate often find the doors locked, the room still, yet the sound continues as if coming from just beyond the wall. More unsettling still is the figure sometimes seen in the bar. At the far end, where the light is weakest, stands a dark silhouette of a man. He does not move, does not speak, only watches. Several witnesses have described the same chilling image, a tall shadow fixed in place, with no features, no detail, only a human form, outlined against the gloom. By the time anyone gathers the courage to approach, the shape is gone, leaving nothing but the flicker of the lamps. One late drinker recalled feeling the weight of eyes upon him. Glancing up, he caught sight of the figure in the corner. At first, he thought it a fellow patron, but the silence, the stillness, and the utter absence of life in that form forced him to look again. The bar was empty. His pint lay unfinished as he hurried into the night. The Manor House Inn remains a cherished landmark in the village, but its reputation carries a warning. The sound of phantom footsteps above and the presence of the silent watcher below are enough to make even the bravest think twice before lingering here alone after dark. Pendennis Castle. On the headland at Falmouth, looking out over the sea, rises Pendennis Castle. Built by Henry VIII to guard the coast, it has stood through centuries of war and siege. Its stone walls, cannons, and battlements speak of power, but those who know the stories tell of another garrison, one not of flesh and blood, but of shadows. The castle is said to be home to at least 8 spirits. In the armory, sudden drops in temperature are felt, a cold that seeps into the bones as though invisible ranks still muster there. On the spiral staircase, visitors have heard the sharp scream of a maid who legend says slipped and fell to her death centuries ago. Her cry echoes suddenly, cutting the silence before fading back into stone. In the Tudor kitchens, footsteps are heard, where no cook treads, and a figure in period dress has been glimpsed, tending fires long since extinguished. Across the lawns, a woman in a flowing gown has been seen drifting, only to vanish as she climbs a staircase, now bricked and sealed. Some have spoken of a childlike figure dressed in Civil War attire, his laughter faint and chilling ringing through the stairwell when no child is near. One nighttime guard patrolling the ramparts felt a tap on his shoulder. Spinning around, he saw only the empty passage. Yet moments later, from the corner of his eye, a man in full soldier's dress strode past and melted into the shadows of the wall. The guard resigned within the week, unwilling to face the castle's corridors alone again. Pendennis Castle may stand as a monument to England's defences, but within its walls, the battles seem never to have ended. Echoes of footsteps, sudden cries, and drifting forms remind all who enter that history does not rest here. Few who have encountered these spirits would choose to patrol Pendennis in the silence of night alone. Merlin's Cave. Beneath the ruins of Tintagel Castle lies a cavern carved by the sea known as Merlin's Cave. At low tide, it stretches deep into the cliffs, a dark, echoing tunnel where the waves crash and retreat like the breath of something alive. To stand at its mouth at dusk is to feel both awe and unease, for this is no ordinary cave, but one steeped in Arthurian legend and haunted tales. For centuries, locals have believed that Merlin himself lingers here, the ancient wizard bound to the place where myth and history entwine. Some claim to have seen a tall figure cloaked in shadow, standing motionless at the far end of the cave. Others have heard whispers carried on the wind, voices too low to make out, yet clear enough to chill the blood. At times, the sound of footsteps on wet stone echoes behind visitors, though the passage remains empty. Fishermen once spoke of lights flickering deep inside the cavern, as though torches were burning in chambers that do not exist. More than one traveler has entered at low tide, only to feel a sudden crushing sense that they are not alone. One described the sensation of a hand brushing his shoulder in the dark. Another recalled seeing his own lantern glow dim before a second light appeared beside it, suspended in the air, then vanishing into the rock. The danger of the sea makes Merlin's Cave unnerving enough. The tide rises quickly, cutting off escape for the unwary. But it is the unseen presence, the feeling of being watched, that keeps most from venturing inside alone. To step into that tunnel without company is to invite the unknown. And so to this day, many will pause at the entrance, peering into the shadows, but turn back rather than face Merlin's Cave by themselves. It is here that the title of our journey rings true. No one dares visit this place alone. Prideaux Place. In the harbour town of Padstow stands Prideaux Place, a grand Elizabethan mansion that has remained in the same family for over 4 centuries. Its stone walls and sweeping staircases speak of tradition, yet those who know its stories whisper of presences that wander still. Among the most unsettling tales is that of a young boy. He has been seen dashing into the old pantry, quick as a shadow. Witnesses wait for him to emerge, but he never does. The door remains closed, the room empty, leaving only the echo of small footsteps fading away. Some believe he was a scullery boy, lost in an accident long ago, condemned to retrace his hurried steps for eternity. Another figure is Honor Fortescue, the wife of a former owner. She is said to chase intruders from the bedrooms with a fierce expression, her skirts sweeping the floor as she vanishes through the doorway. Folklore insists she leapt to her death from the balcony after her husband succumbed to smallpox, though history tells us she remarried and lived on. Still, her ghostly form has been spotted more than once, driving visitors from chambers as though her tragedy were true. There are other presences too. Guests have spoken of women in old dress, moving silently up the staircase, and of a figure seated calmly in the morning room, stitching by unseen light. In one bedroom, the growling of an invisible dog has been heard beneath the bed, its snarls so fierce that guests refuse to sleep there again. One visitor recalled climbing the stairs when the air grew cold and a faint perfume surrounded her. A pale woman, green-tinged in the candlelight, appeared ahead only to fade into the shadows. The experience left her shaken, convinced she had met the Green Lady of Prideaux Place. This great house remains one of Cornwall's proudest landmarks, yet within its halls, history and legend blur. The child in the pantry, the stern matron, the unseen dog, all suggest that Prideaux Place is a home where the past still stirs and where few would walk its corridors after dark alone. Cornwall's shadows still whisper. Which haunting chilled you most? Share, like, and comment, and join creepy experience so these stories never fade into silence.